Have you ever wondered where white people really come from? Is their origin hidden in ancient scriptures? Or perhaps in secrets the Bible hints at but never fully reveals? What if I told you the answer might change everything you thought you knew about human history? Stay with me, because the truth is far more mysterious than you think. But before we fully dive in, if this is your first time here, please subscribe, like, and share this video to help spread the hidden truths of Scripture to others. Now let's begin at the very beginning, literally. The Bible tells us in Genesis that all of humanity descended from Adam and Eve, the first man and woman created by God. But how did we go from two people to the vast diversity of races we see today? The story of humanity's origin takes a dramatic turn in Genesis 6, where wickedness spreads across the earth. God, seeing the corruption of mankind, decides to send a great flood to cleanse the world. But one man, Noah, found favor in God's eyes. God instructed Noah to build an ark and gather his family, his wife, his 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, and pairs of every animal to survive the flood. After the floodwaters receded, Noah's family became the sole survivors of humanity. This is where the roots of all modern peoples trace back to, from Noah's 3 sons. But here's where the story begins to unravel in unexpected ways. According to biblical tradition, Shem, Ham, and Japheth are considered the ancestors of the world's major populations. Shem is linked to the Semitic peoples, including the Hebrews, Arabs, and other groups in the Middle East. Ham is traditionally associated with African populations and some parts of Asia. Japheth, however, is often connected with the people of Europe. But does the Bible explicitly say that white people descended from Japheth? That's where the mystery deepens. The Bible doesn't provide a straightforward racial categorization, and the lines between these ancient ancestries and modern racial concepts are far from clear. Let's take a closer look at what the Bible does say. After the flood, in Genesis 9, there is an incident that changes the course of Noah's family history. Noah becomes drunk and lies uncovered in his tent. Ham, the father of Canaan, sees his father's nakedness and tells his brothers. Shem and Japheth, however, walk backward with a garment to cover their father without looking at him. When Noah awakens, he curses Canaan, Ham's son, declaring that he will be a servant to his brothers. Then Noah blesses Shem and Japheth. In Genesis 9 verse 27, Noah says, "May God enlarge Japheth, and may he dwell in the tents of Shem, and may Canaan be his servant." This blessing hints at Japheth's future expansion and influence. But what does it mean that Japheth will be enlarged and dwell in the tents of Shem? Some scholars interpret this as a prophecy of Japheth's descendants spreading out geographically and perhaps even influencing or sharing in the blessings of Shem's lineage. Could this be a veiled reference to the future expansion of European civilizations and their interactions with Semitic peoples? Let's fast forward to Genesis 10, often referred to as the Table of Nations. This chapter lists the descendants of Noah's sons and provides clues about the geographic spread of their offspring. Japheth's sons are Gomer, Magog, Madai, Javan, Tubal, Meshech, and Tiras. Many historians and biblical scholars have tried to link these names to known ancient tribes and regions. For example, Gomer is often associated with the Sumerians, a nomadic people who lived near the Black Sea. Magog is linked to the Scythians, an ancient group from the steppes of Central Asia and Eastern Europe. Madai is connected to the Medes, an ancient Iranian people. Javan is commonly identified with the ancient Greeks, while Tubal and Meshech are often linked to regions in modern-day Turkey and Russia. These associations suggest that Japheth's descendants spread into areas that would later become home to European and some Central Asian populations. But here's where the plot thickens. The Bible doesn't spend much time detailing Japheth's lineage. The narrative quickly shifts focus to Shem and his descendants, leading to Abraham and the birth of the Israelite nation. So, why is Japheth's story left in the background? Could it be that the Bible intentionally leaves gaps in this lineage, encouraging us to seek answers elsewhere? Or perhaps Japheth's role in history was meant to unfold later, beyond the scope of the biblical narrative? To understand the deeper implications, we have to consider the broader context of ancient migrations and how they align with biblical records. Ancient texts and archaeological discoveries outside the Bible reveal movements of Indo-European tribes from the regions traditionally associated with Japheth's descendants. These migrations shaped the genetic and cultural landscapes of Europe. But there's more to this story. The names Magog and Meshech, for example, don't just appear in Genesis. They resurface in prophetic books like Ezekiel, where they are depicted as nations involved in apocalyptic battles. Could this mean Japheth's lineage holds a role not just in the past, but in future prophetic events? Furthermore, consider the linguistic connections. The Indo-European language family, which includes most European languages, is thought to trace back to the regions inhabited by Japheth's descendants. Could the spread of these languages reflect the enlargement of Japheth mentioned in Genesis 9, verse 27? And yet, for all these hints and connections, the Bible remains cryptic. It doesn't provide a definitive answer, leaving much to our interpretation and investigation. But the story doesn't end here. We're about to dive deeper into ancient texts, historical records, and archaeological findings that might shed more light on the mysterious origins of white people. You won't want to miss it, because the clues we uncover next might change everything you thought you knew. To find the answers, we need to look at the ancient world's migration patterns. Around 2000 to 1500 BCE, groups of people speaking what we now call Indo-European languages began migrating from the regions north of the Black Sea into Europe and parts of Asia. This massive migration aligns with the biblical account of Japheth's descendants spreading out and being enlarged. The Indo-European language family includes most of the languages spoken in Europe today: English, German, French, Spanish, Greek, and many others. These languages share common roots, hinting at a shared ancestry. Could this linguistic connection trace back to Japheth's descendants? Many scholars believe so. For example, Javan, one of Japheth's sons, is often identified with the ancient Greeks. The name Javan closely resembles Ionia, a region of ancient Greece. Similarly, Madai is linked to the Medes of ancient Iran, while Gomer is associated with the Sumerians, who migrated into Europe from the steppes of Eurasia. These connections suggest that Japheth's descendants played a significant role in shaping the early cultures of Europe and surrounding regions. But language isn't the only clue. Archaeological evidence also supports the idea of ancient migrations from the regions around the Black Sea into Europe. The Yamnaya culture, for example, was a group of people from the Pontic-Caspian steppe who migrated into Europe around 3000 BCE. Their DNA has been found in modern European populations, suggesting that these ancient people, possibly descendants of Japheth, are part of the genetic foundation of today's Europeans. But the story doesn't stop with migrations and languages. Remember Magog and Meshech, two of Japheth's sons mentioned in Genesis? Their names resurface in the prophetic books of the Bible, especially in Ezekiel 38 and 39, where they are depicted as nations involved in apocalyptic battles. In Ezekiel 38 verses 2 to 3, God tells the prophet, "Son of man, set your face against Gog of the land of Magog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal. Prophesy against him." This prophecy describes a future invasion of Israel by a coalition of nations, led by Gog of Magog. While the exact identity of Gog and Magog is debated, many scholars and theologians believe these names represent tribes or nations from the regions north of Israel, possibly linked to the descendants of Japheth. Could this mean that Japheth's lineage isn't just a part of ancient history, but also plays a role in future prophetic events? The Bible's references to Magog and Meshech suggest that Japheth's descendants have a continuing influence on the world stage, even in the end times. Beyond the Bible, ancient historical records and legends offer more clues. The Greek historian Herodotus, often called the father of history, wrote about various tribes and peoples that might be linked to Japheth's descendants. For example, he mentioned the Scythians, a nomadic people from the steppes of Eurasia, who are often associated with Magog. Similarly, the Roman historian Josephus, in his work Antiquities of the Jews, explicitly connects Japheth's sons to specific regions and peoples. He wrote that Japheth, the son of Noah, had 7 sons. They inhabited the lands from the mountains Taurus and Amanus, and proceeded along Asia as far as the river Tanais, and along Europe to Cadiz. Josephus goes on to link Gomer with the Galatians, Magog with the Scythians, and Javan with the Greeks. These ancient historians provide a bridge between the biblical account and the historical development of European and Central Asian civilizations. Their writings suggest that the spread of Japheth's descendants was not only real, but also had a lasting impact on the world. Now, let's address the question that's been hanging in the air. How did skin color come into play? If all humanity descended from Noah's family, how do we get the wide range of skin tones we see today, including the lighter skin typically associated with Europeans? The Bible doesn't provide a direct answer to this question, but science offers some insights that align with biblical narratives. Skin color is largely determined by melanin, a pigment that protects the skin from UV radiation. As people migrated to different parts of the world, their skin adapted to the varying levels of sunlight. In regions with intense sunlight, like Africa and parts of Asia, higher melanin levels provided protection against UV rays, resulting in darker skin. In contrast, in northern regions with less sunlight, lower melanin levels allowed people to absorb more vitamin D, leading to lighter skin. This adaptation process didn't happen overnight. It took thousands of years. But it helps explain how the descendants of Noah's sons, who started from a common ancestry, could develop such diverse physical characteristics as they spread across the globe. As we've seen, Japheth's descendants likely played a significant role in the development of European and Central Asian civilizations. But their influence didn't stop there. Throughout history, European cultures, rooted in the descendants of Japheth, have had a profound impact on the world. From the rise of ancient Greek and Roman civilizations to the spread of Christianity throughout Europe and beyond, Japheth's lineage has shaped the course of history in ways that continue to affect us today. The expansion of European empires, the development of Western philosophy and science, and the spread of European languages and cultures around the world all trace back to these ancient roots. But what does this mean for us today? The Bible's account of Japheth's descendants isn't just a story of the past. It's a reminder of the interconnectedness of all humanity. No matter where we come from or what we look like, we all share a common origin. In the final part, we'll explore the spiritual implications of Japheth's story and how it connects to God's greater plan for humanity. We'll uncover the deeper meaning behind Noah's blessing, the role of Japheth's descendants in biblical prophecy, and what this means for the future of the world. You won't want to miss it, because the best is yet to come. Let's start by revisiting Noah's prophetic words in Genesis 9, verse 27. May God enlarge Japheth, and may he dwell in the tents of Shem, and may Canaan be his servant. This blessing may seem simple on the surface, but it carries profound implications. What does it mean for Japheth to be enlarged? Historically, we've seen Japheth's descendants expand geographically, culturally, and politically, influencing much of the known world through empires, colonization, and the spread of Western thought. But this enlargement isn't just about territory or influence. It also points to a spiritual expansion. The phrase, "May he dwell in the tents of Shem," what does that signify? Shem's lineage is traditionally linked to the Semitic peoples, including the Israelites. Dwelling in Shem's tent suggests a close relationship between Japheth's descendants and the spiritual heritage of Israel. Could this be an early hint that Japheth's lineage would one day partake in the blessings given to Shem, particularly through the spread of faith in the God of Israel? Consider how Christianity, which emerged from the Jewish tradition, spread predominantly through the descendants of Japheth across Europe and the Western world. This spiritual inheritance, dwelling in the tents of Shem, suggests that Japheth's descendants would embrace and carry forward the knowledge of the one true God, playing a pivotal role in the global dissemination of biblical teachings. The story of Japheth doesn't just belong to the past. It stretches into the future. Prophetic books like Ezekiel and Revelation mention nations and peoples that may be linked to Japheth's descendants, hinting at their involvement in end times events. Remember Magog, Meshech, and Tubal, sons of Japheth mentioned in Genesis 10? In Ezekiel 38 and 39, these names reappear in a striking prophecy about a coalition of nations led by Gog of the land of Magog, attacking Israel in the last days. Ezekiel 38 verse 15 describes them coming from your place out of the far north, you and many peoples with you, all of them riding on horses, a great company and a mighty army. Many scholars believe that Magog, Meshech, and Tubal represent regions north of Israel, possibly modern-day Russia, Turkey, or surrounding areas. All territories historically linked to Japheth's descendants. Could this mean that Japheth's lineage will play a central role in future prophetic events? If so, what does that tell us about the ongoing influence of this ancient bloodline in global affairs? Revelation 20 verse 7 to 8 also mentions Gog and Magog in a final rebellion against God after the millennium reign of Christ. When the 1,000 years are completed, Satan will be released from his prison and will go out to deceive the nations, Gog and Magog, to gather them for battle. The recurrence of these names in both Old and New Testament prophecies suggests a lasting significance, tying Japheth's descendants to the unfolding of God's ultimate plan. Beyond prophecy, Japheth's descendants have left a profound spiritual legacy through their role in spreading Christianity and biblical values around the world. The Apostle Paul's missionary journeys, recorded in the New Testament, focused heavily on regions populated by Japheth's descendants, Greece, Rome, and other parts of Europe. The early church flourished in these areas, becoming the foundation for the Western Christian tradition. The expansion of Christianity into Europe and from there to the Americas, Africa, and Asia through missions and colonization fulfills the idea of Japheth being enlarged. But it also raises questions. How have Japheth's descendants handled this spiritual inheritance? Have they remained faithful stewards of the gospel, or have they strayed from the path? Consider the rise of secularism in many Western nations. Countries that once championed Christian values now grapple with spiritual decline and moral relativism. Could this be part of the larger narrative, where Japheth's descendants, having been enlarged, now face the responsibility of maintaining their spiritual legacy? As we reflect on Japheth's story, it's crucial to remember that the Bible presents all humanity as interconnected. While Japheth's descendants have played a significant role in shaping history, they're just one branch of Noah's family tree. The blessings, responsibilities, and prophetic roles extend to Shem's and Ham's descendants as well. Galatians 3 verse 28 reminds us, "There is no longer Jew or Gentile, slave or free, male and female. For you are all one in Christ Jesus." This unity underscores the idea that, despite our diverse origins, humanity shares a common purpose in God's plan. Japheth's story isn't about elevating one group over another, but about understanding our place in the broader narrative of redemption and reconciliation. First, it's a reminder of our shared origins. Regardless of skin color, culture, or background, we all trace our lineage back to Noah and ultimately to Adam and Eve. This shared heritage should inspire unity, compassion, and a sense of global responsibility. Second, Japheth's enlargement and spiritual inheritance challenge us to consider how we're using the blessings we've received. Are we spreading truth, justice, and compassion? Are we honoring the spiritual legacy passed down through generations? Finally, the prophetic role of Japheth's descendants invites us to stay vigilant. As we watch global events unfold, we must remain rooted in faith, discerning the signs of the times, and preparing our hearts for what's to come. The story of Japheth's descendants, from biblical times to today, is one of expansion, influence, and spiritual significance. But it's also a story still being written. As we move forward, let's embrace the lessons of the past, stay grounded in our shared humanity, and remain open to the unfolding of God's plan. Because as we've discovered, the origins of white people and of all humanity are more than just a historical question. They're a key to understanding our place in the world, our relationship with each other, and our role in God's grand design. And as we navigate the complexities of our time, let's remember, the journey of Japheth's descendants mirrors our own. Each of us has a part to play in the divine narrative, and together, we move forward into the future God has prepared for us all. Thank you for joining me on this journey into the depths of mystery and faith. If you've enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, seek the truth, embrace the mystery, and never stop exploring.